In Iraq, U.S. troops confront Iraqi military police, and Saddam Hussein's forces pull back. In this country, General Norman Schwarzkopf comes home. Mission accomplished. And White House Chief of Staff John Sununu questions about whether he is taking taxpayers for a ride when he flies.
This is NBC Nightly News, reported by Garrett Utley.
Good evening. In a refugee center in Turkey today, food was being brought in by relief workers there. Hungry refugees rioted to get at that food. They threw stones, and then Turkish troops fired shots. One Kurdish refugee was killed today. 5 others were wounded. And that tragedy, on top of all the other ones, shows the urgency of getting new camps built inside Iraq itself, persuading the refugees to move to them and then protecting them. Today, the main American and Allied forces moved into northern Iraq. U.S. Marines were in the convoy which moved toward the Iraqi town of Zakko, a Kurdish town. But when they got there, a surprise. About 200 armed Iraqi military police. They were not supposed to be there, according to an agreement worked out by American and Iraqi officers, but there they were. A moment of tense confrontation, and then the Iraqis pulled back.
We just arrived yesterday into the city, and it's the first time I've seen the Iraqi military in this kind of mood. When we first came here, they were very positive towards us and very happy to see us, along with the people of the Zakho here.
What do you mean when you say this kind of mood?
Very tense and very untrusting.
American forces in the Gulf War, General Norman Schwarzkopf returned home today. He arrived at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. He was greeted by his wife and his children, and also a very enthusiastic family dog, as well as hundreds of cheering admirers. Schwarzkopf will continue to command American forces in the Gulf from his headquarters in Florida, and then later this summer, he is expected to retire from the U.S. Army.
But amidst all the patriotic fervour, there's a growing concern here that American foreign policy has lost its way since the war ended. President Bush has seen his personal popularity fall by more than 10%. He wasn't saying how long America's commitment to the Kurds will last, but his vice president spelt out on Sunday the purpose of the relief operation.
We want to provide the sheltering, we want to provide the clothing, and this is the most important aspect of our policy. We're also there to try to protect the Kurds against any military action from Iraq.
While protection is being offered to the Kurds in the north of Iraq, U.S. troops are withdrawing from the south, and the UN peacekeeping force, which is replacing them, says it can't become involved in conflict with the Iraqis.
This is no police force, and the head of that peacekeeping contingent, the Austrian general, General Greindl, has made it very clear, I would imagine also to General Schwarzkopf, that he cannot become a police force on Iraqi territory.
In refugee camps on the Iraqi border, U.S. troops try to entertain Kurdish children. It's an image Americans are comfortable with. They may be less happy with an open-ended military commitment inside Iraq that could drag on for months.
Space contract in history, the U.S. Air Force is to go ahead with the next generation of radar-evading fighter aircraft. The new stealth fighter project will cost $95 million US. Production will start in 5 years and will update fighters which performed with distinction in the Gulf War. At the White House, George Bush said what Schwarzkopf and his troops did was fantastic.
And what he and his troops did for the morale in the United States of America is unbelievable.
The general, who will soon retire, was dressed in green uniform rather than the familiar desert battle fatigues.
Brothers Habib and Mubarak Shihab.
Brothers. This one, another one there.
Habib, 11 years old, and his older brother were playing in a field when they set off a concealed landmine.
children also the same problem.
Since the ceasefire, more than 300 people, including more than a dozen American servicemen, have been wounded or killed. Mubarak is in critical condition. There is a shortage of surgeons, and 90% of the hospital's equipment was stolen by the Iraqis. American doctors, volunteers from Arizona, didn't even have time to unpack.
You want me to help you on this case?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure. I don't mind at all. I'll be more than happy to.
The doctors must hurry. Both boys need immediate surgery.
This is the shrapnel right here.
The blast which shattered Mubarak's leg was intended for American soldiers.
This is the classic post-war situation, you know? Two innocent kids walk along somewhere and all of a sudden, boom, off goes a mine.
The doctors never get used to this.
10 years of surgery now, when I see this kind of thing, it really just breaks your heart.
The parents are told the boys will live. But a doctor tells them, we had to cut it. We couldn't risk Mubarak's life.
He was upset because we told him the amputation of the right leg.
He asks a hollow question. His leg or his life? Which is better? Keith Miller, NBC News, Kuwait City.